Hey all, Liam again with Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York. Today I want to take you through the life of an egg. If you've seen my other life of video, Life of a Sperm, we discussed the journey a sperm takes from its creation in the testicles to its expulsion through the tip of the penis. Today we're going to take you on a similar journey of an egg's life starting in the ovaries and ending when it exits the body, either as a baby or as a menstrual period. So let's get started. So, unlike the testicles, which are outside the body, the ovaries are inside the body. And you can't see them with your naked eye. All the stuff we're looking at right now, you can't see. It's all inside the female body, or the body of people born with uterus and ovaries. And so also, unlike the testicles that produce sperm every single day, the ovaries do not. The ovaries only are born with all the eggs they're ever going to have inside of them. And so instead of them being produced, they are released. And so once a month, once a person with a uterus starts having their, goes through puberty and starts having their period, their body starts releasing eggs through something called ovulation. And so ovulation occurs when an egg is pulled out of the ovaries and goes into the fallopian tubes. Another thing the ovaries do, like the testicles, they produce hormones. But instead of producing a hormone that makes someone look more masculine, they produce a hormone that makes people look more feminine. It makes women's breasts grow, hips get wider, and the hormones are called progesterone and estrogen. And these are called female hormones. So when someone's ovulating, the ovum, or the egg, is pulled out of the ovaries through something called the fimbria, which are little finger-like tentacles that pull them out of the ovaries. Once a month, it usually happens on one side 1 month, then the other side the other month. Both ovaries could ovulate the same time of the month, causing twins. Or one could do it a few times in a row. Bodies are crazy and chaotic. So there's no this is how it's going to happen. But usually it goes one side 1 month, one side the other. And then you get into the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube is a tube where fertilization occurs and where the egg travels through to get to the ovaries. So right here is where fertilization would occur. If you were having vaginal intercourse with a penis down here, the sperm will go through the cervix, through the uterus, into the fallopian tubes and fertilize this little egg. And then the egg will come through and attach to the uterine walls. However, sometimes the egg gets stuck in the fallopian tubes once it gets fertilized, and this is called an ectopic pregnancy. And unfortunately, if you do have an ectopic pregnancy, it's not viable and it must be terminated. There's no way to save an ectopic pregnancy currently. And so it does need to be terminated at that time. You also will notice that once the egg entered the fallopian tubes, the uterus started building up the stuff on the inside. And so what is the stuff on the inside of the uterus, if you might ask? Well, it's blood and mucus. And it's what the egg, if it got fertilized, would attach to and start developing into a pregnancy. A fertilized egg is called a zygote. So the zygote technically would attach to the uterine walls and this blood and mucus and start developing into a fetus. If it doesn't, though, we'll talk about that in a second. So the uterus, or the womb, is where pregnancy starts to develop into a fetus. You'll notice the top of the uterus is thinner than the sides. And so when someone becomes pregnant, the fetus will develop upwards and stretch out this thin part right here. And then it goes upwards until it hits around the diaphragm, which is like a muscle we use to breathe underneath our lungs. And then once it gets that high, it starts to go outwards. So fetuses look like they're developing really high up in our bodies, but they start off really, really low, right above the vagina. Another thing to remember is that what we're looking at is only about the size of a fist. Maybe not my fist is kind of big, but it's only about the size of like a small fist. So like I said, if the egg or the ovum does not get fertilized, then once a month, this all comes out of the body. This is why women have their monthly periods, because all this buildup is preparing the uterus to get pregnant. And if it doesn't get pregnant, it all comes out and starts over again. And now it's squeezed out through this tiny, tiny hole called the cervix. And the cervix is a tiny little hole about this big. We say it goes from the size of a poppy seed. When you're usually it's around the size of a poppy seed. Until maybe when you're giving birth, then it kind of expands to the size of a bagel. And so the cervix, again, it's a really tiny hole, and all this blood and mucus and stuff has to be squeezed out of it while you're having your monthly period. And so a lot of times women might have like a lot of cramps and things like that occurring during their monthly period. And it's because the uterus is trying to squeeze all this stuff out through such a tiny little hole. And I mentioned the cervix does grow a little bit, or not a little bit, a lot when you're giving birth. So say you did get pregnant at this point, the fetus develops into like, a full pregnancy, and you're about to give birth, your cervix will start to get bigger. It's called dilation, which means it goes from about this big to being about this big. And then the baby is pushed through that hole. If you ever watch like a doctor show, they'll be like, oh, she's 7 centimeters dilated, the baby's coming. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the cervix dilating to get bigger. And then after you give birth, it goes back pretty much back to its regular size. Then we have the vagina. The vagina is a 1 to 3 inch tube that can, that you can use for sexual intercourse if you choose to. People call everything females have the vagina, but in reality, the vagina is just this like tube that you use for intercourse if you want to. Something interesting to remember about vaginas that people don't always realize is that they actually grow. Just like a penis, when a penis is aroused, it gets longer and harder because it fills with blood. The vagina does the same thing, but kind of in reverse. So it fills up with blood, and the cervix pulls back, and it's called tenting, and the vagina gets deeper in order to, fit a penis inside of it. Or any object of insertion, but, and so that's what we're going to end today. Next time, I'm going to talk to y'all about the external genitalia for a female called the vulva. Until next time, see y'all later.